God, do you mind if I tell my story? God told him to go to the king and tell him, it's going to rain in this land. And after he said it, it looked like the clouds zipped up and withheld the rain. And then Elijah walked away from the king arrogantly. And he said, my goodness, I prophesied this, but if there's no water for them, there's no water for me. But as he began to walk, the same God that told him to speak the word says, I'm going to lead you to a special brook that's still got water running, and you can drink there, and I'll meet you right there. I came to tell somebody that it might be a drought in America, but God's got a place for you where he's going to meet your needs in spite of what's going on everywhere else. Please talk to your neighbor real quick and tell him, neighbor, God made you a promise. And a promise is a promise. Well, just as God spoke, there was water in the daytime, and ravens came and fed the prophet in the midst of the drought. Who in here am I talking to? That in the midst of this economic downturn, you should have lost everything, but God still got you in a good place. Who am I talking to in here? You know you should have lost everything you got. Shouldn't be no cars at your house. Shouldn't be no lights at your house. But God made you a promise that I will keep you in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on me. And so God met him there. But all of a sudden the brook dried up. Can I preach here just for a moment? Every now and then God intends to transition you, causes something that was blessing you to dry up. But what do you do when the brook dries up? The thing you are counting on is no longer available. The very thing that was sustaining you, you went down to get some water, and all you got now is dust. What do? You don't panic. You don't lose your mind. You wait for the next word that God speaks out of his mouth. He says, Elijah, get up, go down to Zarephath, for there I have commended a widow woman to sustain thee. I've got to unpack this for you. So here God sends him down to Zarephath. Zarephath means the place of the threshing floor, which simply means that is the place where they took the wheat and they threw it up in the air after stepping on it on the floor. Separate the bad part of the wheat from the good part. It was preparing the wheat to be used. God says, I'm sending you to a place where I am preparing somebody to bless you. I thought y'all was going to get that right there. God says, some of you are in Zarephath. You're not what I need you to be just yet, but I am preparing you. That's why you have to go through what you're going through, because he's getting you ready. Elbow somebody. Tell him he's getting you ready. He's getting you ready. That's why you have to go through all the hell that you've been through, so that when God gets ready to use you, you won't be scared of anything that the devil has ever done before in your life. Who am I talking to in here that has been under the attack of the enemy? You've never been under attack before, but outside of all he's done, you still got a praise in your mouth. Trying to find my group. Somebody in here, in spite of everything that the devil has done in 2012, I want you right. Just throw your head back and say, God, I still give you praise. It's hard where I am right now, but I still give you praise. I don't have all that I need, but I still give you praise, because he's getting me ready for something greater than I can't see right now. Touch somebody, tell them a promise is a promise. He promised to never leave me nor forsake me. He promised to be there with me until the end of the age. Well, when Elijah gets there, also in Zarephath, he could have chosen. God says, there she is. No, God, you can't be talking about her. It's a little widow, and that's the one. No, God, she doesn't look like much. But I found out that God doesn't look like man from the outside. But God has a way of looking at your heart. Oh, God. Thank you, Bishop, for helping me. God has a way of looking past all your faults and all your flaws to look down on the inside. Don't you understand when God God made you the promise, he already knew your economic situation. He already knew your issues. He already knew your vices. He already knew how many times you was going to mess up. And he still, somebody need to bless God that he still made you a promise. But when he got to the woman, he found her in a difficult place in her life. All she had was a little bit of nothing. And he told the woman, he said, listen here, I need for you to stop doing what you're doing and go and get me some water. Hear this now. And when he said, go get some water, she said, yes, my Lord. And she began to go get him some water. But while she was on her way, he said, and bring me some cake too. Something happened in the woman. She had to be a sister, because when he said, bring her some cake, she spun and her backbone slipped. Oh, don't talk to me here. Her neck got low. Wait a second, preacher. You don't know what I'm going through at the house, preacher. Here I am just trying to make ends meet, preacher. And you had one offering already. You had a second offering. I was going to get what you asked me for the first time, but now you want to put something else on it. Let me tell you something, preacher. I don't have what you need. Hear this. Pause for a moment. There was a drought in the land, but she was going to give him the water, which was scarce. That's right. But when he asked her for something beyond the water, fear grabbed a hold of him. I need you to touch somebody and tell them in the midst of what you're going to, touch somebody, lay hands on somebody, and tell them in the midst of what you're going through, fear will cancel your promise. Shake your and tell them you can't operate in fear. You got to get connected to the word that was spoken. Y'all not touching nobody. Find somebody and tell them fear will cause you to miss God. Fear will cause you to miss your breakthrough. Fear will cause you from coming out of what God has intended for you to come out of. Find somebody else you can talk to. Don't find nobody who's looking at you crazy, but find somebody and tell them, listen, neighbor, listen. When you get connected to the promise that God has spoken over your life, when you believe God, when you don't understand what he's saying, go ahead and preach to him, because some folk ain't going to respond to your preach. Tell them, oh, neighbor, you learn to believe God when you don't understand what God is trying to say. Then you can walk in faith. For faith is the substance of things hoped for. It's the evidence of things not seen. Elbow somebody and tell them, I don't see it yet, but I know it's coming to pass. I don't see the house yet, but I know it's coming to pass. I don't see the wealth yet, but I know it's coming to pass. Because a promise is from God is not a man that he should lie, neither the son of man that he should repent. If God said it, shall he bring it to pass? Somebody shout, yeah! Wait, preacher, I can't do it, Bishop. I'm going through too much. Here would have been a good place for Elijah to do what most of us do. It's all right, baby. Go ahead. Go ahead. Don't worry about it. God will make a way. But Elijah said, stop all that crying. Let me tell you what God said. Go and do what you said. But bring me mine, because God says, if you do what I command, the oil in your home and the wheat in your home, it shall never run dry. Can I preach to somebody over this section? The first thing she told the priest was, all I got left in my house is just a little bit of oil.
Yes, God.
And a little bit of bread.
My God.
Y'all didn't get it. Y'all again. All I got left in my house is just a little bit of anointing and a little bit of word. Y'all still didn't get it. All I got left in my house is the power of God that's upon my life and the word of the Lord to stand upon. Elijah said, as long as you mind first. I need you to get this, because I'm going somewhere. What she had was not even enough. It wasn't enough. She said, we're going to eat this, then we're going to go home and die. Please find somebody you can talk to. I'm getting ready to go to my seat. And talk to them real quick and tell them, neighbor, what you holding on to ain't even enough to bring you out of your situation. Preach to your neighbor and tell them, neighbor, I need for you to understand the difference on how to deal with your seed. You can eat your seed and be full for a moment, or you can plant your seed and wait just a little while longer. Wait through the storm and the rain. Wait while the lightning flash. Wait while the thunder rolls. Because any day now, God is going to cause your seed to bring forth the harvest. Touch somebody and tell them, neighbor, I'm waiting on some seeds that I planted last year that God said would come to pass this year. And so I got to go now. But touch somebody and tell them a promise is a promise. Find somebody else, tell them a promise is a promise. A promise is a promise. God will bring it to pass. I need to say something to you, Bishop. While folks are looking at what you're doing and telling you, I don't know why you're doing what you're doing. Who told you to go to Saturday? Tell them God told you to go to Saturday. Who told you to organize this? Tell them God told you to organize this. But if it was God, it would be bigger than it is right now. I need you to tell the next joke that says that. Tell them a promise. Yes. He may not come when you want him, but he'll always be on time. Say yeah. I gotta go, y'all. She said, okay, I'm gonna do what you said. I'm gonna go home and make you some bread. While she was making her bread, can you see her son clinging to her leg, waiting for a little piece of bread? And she says, no, boy, I gotta take this little bit to the man of God, because a promise is a promise. But if you stay right here, God promised to do something in our house that will never be without another day in our life. I need you to talk to your neighbor real quick and tell him, neighbor, I hear God speaking to your home and tell you, in the midst of this drought, God said, I'm not going to let you be without. And the promise is a promise. She gave the man of God everything that he needed. But when she went back home, shut the door. She looked at the cruse of oil. And the oil in the cruse, the level of the oil had begun to grow just a little bit more. I came to tell somebody that while I'm preaching, the power in your home is growing every moment. The power in your home is expanding every minute. I dare somebody to give God praise for a promise is a promise. Yeah. Then when she looked in the basket where the meal was, she dumped all she had into the baker to make the cake for the preacher. But back home, there was more meal in the basket. I gotta go, y'all. But grab your neighbor and tell him, neighbor, I don't know when, and I don't know how, but God will make a way. Yes, He will. Yes, He will. Yes, He will. Can I get a witness in here who's ever been down to your last when God stepped Hear this. When you get connected to the promise,